Hola a todos, welcome back to Metafit Metamind Podcast, a podcast in which speakers, leaders, entrepreneurs, and influencers come in and share their journey on how they've gotten to this place in their life while also normalizing those conversations between mental and physical health and wellness. I am Carla Rodriguez, your coach and trainer of NLP and host of this podcast, and I created this space to remind you to raise your voice and share your story. And as your guide, I am here to create a pathway to let go of all those limiting chains behind and use this platform to empower and create awareness, purpose, and expansion in your life. You can follow us on Instagram at Metafit Metamind Podcast, or you can follow me at Coach Carlita. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. All right. Thank you for being here for another episode of this podcast. I don't have too many updates for you on this one because, we just caught this last one, okay? It was a special week because you're getting 2 episodes on the same week. So I really hope you enjoyed this previous episode. And if you haven't listened to it, definitely go back and check it out when you get a chance. The one thing I will say today as an update, because obviously I already shared with you this week, Metafit Metamind Academy has some really exciting things in the works for this year. So if you've been thinking about your personal growth, self-development, or maybe even diving into NLP, make sure that you're paying attention over the next few weeks. There's going to be a lot of value coming your way. So let's get into this episode, okay? For this one, I had the privilege of speaking with an amazing woman, Meridee Hlokoff, and I actually looked up how to say her name, and I even say it in the podcast. A powerful woman, an entrepreneur, a mama, and someone who's worked so hard to get to where she is today. We talked about her journey, not just in her business, but also as a mom, and the insights that she has picked up along the way. And so since 2011, she's been dedicating to helping people break free from addiction, not just through theory, but through a method that actually changed her own life first. She's someone who deeply believes in helping others step into their freedom, and her heart really, really shines through the work that she is doing and all the content that she shares online, which I'll share that in the show notes. So I'm not going to share too much. I want you to listen to everything from her words. She is also really smart. She taught me so many things in this one. So listen to the episode and let us know what you thought. All right. I am so excited today for having you back here on Metafit Metamind Podcast. I'm excited today because I have a really cool guest that I just met maybe a week ago or so. And the moment that I saw like her picture, I was like, oh, she's cool. She's someone I want to have on the podcast. So I have Meridee Hlokoff. I actually looked up how to say your last name.
Yeah, you
So thank you so
did.
much for being on here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I know when we had our first little meeting, I was just like, oh my God, we're going to be friends.
Yeah, there's so many cool things that I like sometimes I just want to geek out on, and especially with me finding out what you do and we'll get into that. So before we even get into I feel like the more surface things that are definitely important, I want to know who is Meridee?
Oh, who is Meredith? Do we ever know? I
I don't
literally
think.
feel like at this moment, I'm also going through like a rebuild of who I am. So I am a single mother of 2 in my 40s. My children are 21 and turning 23 in less than a month. Um, I am a entrepreneur who owns a couple of businesses. One of those businesses we're going to talk about today, and we
Mm-hmm.
have multiple locations of that business. Um, I am someone who has really dug into the self-work of becoming a better person, which is why I say, like, I feel like I'm almost rebuilding who I am again after all these years and all this work. I feel like maybe I'm changing and becoming someone else again. So,
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
my God. And I love that. I love that you're saying that rebuild of this new version of you, or maybe an upgraded or updated version of you. And to even get to this point, of already being like aware that you're finding this new version of you. What's that journey been like for you, or what was that chapter turn for you that has brought you to this point in your life that now it seems like you're turning another one.
I know. So the most recent shift really actually came from, of course, I mean, I feel like all of our shifts come from somewhere painful a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times. And so I went through for the last year or so, I've been dating. I've been single for the last 5 years. And last year I spent the year, exploring the dating world And I met someone and I really thought, wow, this could be something really great. It turned out not to be at all. In fact, it was maybe even slightly narcissistic and very toxic and unhealthy. And it really inspired me to like look at myself, look at what I'm attracting, what I'm allowing. And then just kind of pain has made me really dig into what does Meridee want? What does Meridee want to be? Who does Meridee want to be? Because the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about life is that we're not stuck with who we are right now.
Yeah.
And so
Those are
I
the
am
best questions too.
right. And so I really just have sat with those for the last little bit and like, who do I want to be? How can I be more compassionate while also not caring about your opinion of me? Because your opinion of me isn't my business.
Hmm.
And really taking maybe some of these like facts and logical information and really embedding them in who I am.
Hmm.
So I've just kind of been on this new journey. I think also because my business is really growing and expanding, I have to let go of pieces of who I used to be because
Hmm.
I can't play those roles anymore.
Hmm.
You know, as an entrepreneur, we have like
Yeah.
1,000 hats that we
Oh my
wear at all
gosh.
times.
Yeah, it's
And
like you're the director, the producer of all the things business.
the actor and
Yeah.
the cameraman and the
And
and
our
so
own
you're bouncing
therapist
around.
sometimes.
Like literally you're bouncing around doing everything. And now, like I have had to hire a VA and then I hired an assistant and then I
Mhm.
also hired this person. And I'm
Yeah.
then all of a sudden though, then I sit there and I go, okay, well now I have nothing left to do.
Yeah.
So what do I do now? And the reality is if I didn't have these things, when this does blow up and when one of the reels goes viral or
Hmm.
whatever happens as I grow and blow up, if I don't have these things in place, I'm not going to be prepared for that blow up. So it's kind of just like finding myself again because
Yeah.
what Meredith knows is I know how to work, I know how to manage my businesses, and now I need to put someone else in those places. So what do I do now? And who do
Yeah.
I want to be in that?
Yeah. And so
So,
let me ask you this, because that's such a huge thing for an entrepreneur to start to hire somebody, right? And like you said, letting go of those pieces, those roles that you have had maybe such a strong hold on because you know how everything is, right? And so now when you've had the opportunity, maybe it was a challenge at first, but maybe now the opportunity to hire these people, how has that even maybe either facilitated or challenged this entrepreneur that you are?
oh, oh God. I probably, you know what? Hiring people is one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur
Hmm.
because when you run it, it's
Yeah.
run the way you want it to be run,
Yeah.
right? Like you're in control. So if there's a negative outcome,
Hmm.
it's my fault.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility. Now it's my responsibility, but it's not necessarily my fault. So,
Yeah.
like, so my
Yeah.
also I no longer have control. Yes, I've taught you how I want it to be done.
Hmm.
But no matter how I teach you, you're going to put your spin on things because you're not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
this new, like having to let go. And
Mhm.
I mean, I have a tattoo on my
Yeah.
wrist and it says, let it
Oh, it
go.
does say that. Yeah.
And it's because I went through an experience that like changed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned like I have no control over anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I did actually a spiritual journey, and I did DMT on this
Oh,
spiritual
okay.
journey. And the thing that was the one repeating thing in this spiritual journey was you need to let it go. And I started asking, okay, but what about my business? Let
Yeah.
it go, Meredith. Okay, well, what about my kids? Let them go, Meredith.
Yeah.
Well, what about this? Let it go, Meredith. I've
Yeah.
got you. I know better than you do. And every time you question me, or every time you question you, you question me, and
Yeah.
I've got this. And I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to universe, God, whatever you want to call it. I literally experienced enlightenment. Now the veil comes back down when you're not doing these things. So I don't remember what that felt like, but I do remember feeling like, oh my God, we are all one.
Yeah.
This is a place of that we're all attached to each other. I saw the attachment to us all. It was such an interesting experience. But the
Yeah.
one thing that kept repeating was let it go, let it go, let it
Yeah.
go. How easy is it to say and how hard is it to do? Letting it go and letting, for example, if I hired you, I'd have to let it go and let you do what I've taught you to do and trust that I've taught you well enough.
Yes.
It's a lot
Yeah.
like my kids.
Yeah,
You know, if there's
I was
a
gonna
gap.
say, like, as a mom, right? You teach them as much as you can, yet that letting go of their own little person, maybe not so little for, your kids are in their
Yeah.
20s, but still teaching them. And do you think motherhood has really helped you to be more flexible with that?
Ooh, you know, I can't, motherhood has definitely been probably my biggest growth journey
Yeah.
because and it's so interesting because I just did a reel about this and about how if we don't heal it, we're going to pass it on.
Mm-hmm.
And we go into parenting after leaving your parents, and I did it really
Mm-hmm.
young. Like my kids were 20. I was 20 when 21
Mm,
when I had my first kid, right?
yeah.
Like I was still a kid.
Yeah.
Um, and so you go into parenting coming barely out of being parented. 3 years later, I'm parenting. And the mindset that I had about that was I will never do anything like my mother did it.
Yeah.
Which now we're going to traumatize our kids in a completely different way because now I'm doing the complete opposite of what she did, even if she had justification or validation in why
Yeah.
she was doing what she was doing. So I did raise my kids like that for a little while. And then all of a sudden, I started to heal myself,
Mm-hmm.
which then allowed me to heal my relationships with my kids and with my mother without healing
Mm-hmm.
the actual relationship
Yeah.
with my mother. I healed my own side of the relationship with my mother, which allowed me to parent my kids different.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting for me about parenting was, I went through all these years of parenting my kids and I've never been a helicopter parent. Go do you, go make mistakes. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for you to support you and give you the consequences of those mistakes when you make them. And I will do all of the things.
Yeah.
And then my kids turned 18, right? All of us parents are like, oh, I can't wait for my kids to turn 18. They're going to get
Bye.
out of my house, right? Like, see
Yeah.
ya, have
I
fun.
have a
Deal with
1-year-old, so
that
I have a long way to
experience.
go.
I got to tell you, it's the scariest part because suddenly my children are going to have real consequences. Now the world is going to kick their ass instead of me doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't want that because the world is so much more violent than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I became, if you can believe this, my daughter started dating a guy when she was 17. I was happy for them, but then he started to show some narcissistic traits.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I became a helicopter parent and my daughter's 18.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends like sat me down and he said, Meridee, I love you. And you have never been a helicopter parent. And I was like, I know. He's like, then why are you being one right now? And I was like, wait, what? And he was like,
You're like,
look
what are you
at
talking
yourself.
about?
Just sit here
Yeah.
and look at yourself. And I was like, oh my, oh my God. Oh my God. What am I doing? And so then I
Yeah.
realized that that was what it was, is now she's off on her own, making her own decisions. And the real consequences of life are going to hit her. And I was trying to protect her from that. When it can't comes to like now, as my kids are in their 20s, the real consequences that are going to come to them, I have also given them enough skills and tools that
Mm-hmm.
when those things come, they're able to deal with them.
Yeah.
So I have to let go and let them do what they're supposed to do. And I got
Yeah.
to say that was the hardest part, but it
And I even feel
also,
the pull right now as you're telling me. I'm like, oh, do I want to? Do I not? I remember the experience with my mom letting go, or not really, but being forced to. Like,
yeah,
mom, I'm stepping out, and yeah, like I can feel as you're telling me this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not ready for that, but I have to
right.
somehow be ready.
And I don't know that we get to a place where we're ready. I think we get
Yeah.
to a place where we all of a sudden acknowledge, oh, it's that time and I
Yeah.
have to let go now. And it's usually, like you'll have a fight with your kid who's 18 and is like, stop telling me what to do. And you're like, oh, wait, you're right. I
Yeah.
can't.
I feel like even now I'm parenting my mom a little bit. She's like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm like, oh, it doesn't mean what I'm doing. I'm just telling you what I'm observing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think it's really cool that, you've had like this experience of parenting and entrepreneurship and that letting go. And so, now with the business that you've started and the people that you're hiring, how has that expanded for you?
So hiring people was definitely one of my bigger challenges. Now
Yeah.
I hired the first time I hired someone, I'm going to say was probably 12 years ago. If you can believe it, that woman is still with me. And
That's,
that was in my other business,
yeah.
because I have two businesses, and
Yeah.
LaserQuit, the one we're here to talk about
Yeah.
today.
We're about
I've
to
had
get
it
into it.
for thir 14 years in July. So 13 and a half years right now.
Yeah.
And when I bought that business and started working on it, that's when I had to hire someone to help me in my bookkeeping business.
Yeah.
And letting go was so hard.
Yeah.
And allowing this woman to, instead of burning myself out and working myself
Mhm.
to the ground, actually handing these things over was incredibly difficult. But I think that also helped me prepare for letting my kids go
Yeah.
and, growth in
Yeah.
general.
And I find it so
Um,
interesting. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I find it so interesting that this message of letting go, letting go, letting go, and what you're doing with LaserQuit, I'm gonna connect it right now,
mm,
is letting go of, in a way, of the addictions, of the things that are, people hold on to for
yeah.
one reason or another. So how did you know it was time to start that and help
Okay.
people let go, right? Or be ready to say, okay, I accept that it's time for this change. Like, how did that even begin?
I love that you tied that all together because you know what is interesting is it really is like the core of Laser Quit isn't just letting go of
Mm-hmm.
your addictions.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to let go of your addiction, you now need to let go of your trauma. So it really is all about that letting go and probably a
Yeah.
good portion of my lesson right now. Um,
Hey.
so I'm going to say 14 years ago, I'm going to say 14 and a half, maybe 15 years ago, I own a bookkeeping company. It's, at the time it was moderately successful. It
Mhm.
paid my bills and it took care of me and my kids and allowed me to buy a house. It was good.
Yes.
Um, but I didn't feel satisfied because a lot of people don't necessarily, at the time, it's a very
Mhm.
different story now, but at the time,
Yeah.
people didn't really appreciate me. They give me the receipts. And at the time also, I didn't have as much experience because this is 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So, they drop off their receipt, they drop off their invoicing, and then I give them the results. And most of the time I'm like, hey, you owe the government this much money. Hey, you owe the
Yeah.
government this much money. So
Yeah.
people aren't happy with me. They're not hugging me. They're not thanking me.
Yeah. They only
I
remember you for
started
the payments
doing
they owe.
Yes, yes. So what are you going to appreciate your bookkeeper for?
Yeah.
There's someone who tracks something and I pay you to do so, and then you give me bad news every time I drop something off. Thanks for
Mhm.
that. And then I started, and I had been doing income tax for people for probably 10 years at this point, because now I've been doing it for almost 25. And, I still wasn't finding joy in any of the things I was doing. So I
Mhm.
started looking for something that I could find more joy in. Now, that being said, even though I found Laser Quit, I was looking for joy and I
Mm.
ended up finding it in the same business, even though I had bought another one. So this is such an interesting thing because we go looking for happiness and joy in the future and in something.
Mhm.
And the reason that happiness is so elusive is because we're always looking for it forward instead of right here, right now, in this very moment.
Yeah.
That's why it's so elusive. Stop chasing it because it's going to be found right in front of you. But I purchased this business because I was a smoker and I needed to quit. And I had an experience with this cold laser, and it was literally a magical experience because I walked away. The woman gave me this weird treatment, didn't tell me anything, so I'm like bouncing around while she's doing it. I'm all uncomfortable, and then I get in my car and I'm like, or I go to leave, and I'm like, now what? She's like, well, now you don't smoke, and I was like, easier said than done. Is this
Yeah.
real? And she's like, yeah. So from here on out, you just don't pick up another cigarette. And I was like, this has got to be a joke. I just paid you a whole lot of money for I don't know what I just paid for. And I was like, oh, well, money's out the window. Thank you for your
Yeah.
time. And I got in my car and I drove home. And I was 3 hours away from my home. And I had gone to a
Wow.
concert, which is why I
Yeah.
had chosen to do this. And on my way home, I had a friend with me and he said, you keep rolling down your window and patting your center console. So when are you going to quit smoking? And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, what an, I- I'm, I'm so confused right now. And he said, why are you confused? And I was like, because I have not thought about smoking one time. And he's like, you're lying. He's like, there's probably been 6 or 7 times that you have rolled that window down and then patted the center console. And I was like, my habit is roll the window down, grab a cigarette, light it, smoke it. And when I didn't find the cigarette, I would just go back to driving.
Yeah.
My brain didn't think about it. And I was like, this is amazing. I didn't smoke for 5 years. It was incredible. So then when I did start smoking again, I knew what to do. I only smoked for
Mhm.
3 more weeks. I went down and I bought the training, I bought the
Yeah.
lasers, and I started the journey. Now, a lot of the cold laser companies will be like, we have 99% success rates on the day of treatment.
Yeah.
And we do. But that's not classified as quitting when it's the day of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can make it 12 hours, 24 hours, but they can't make it much more than that.
Yeah.
So then I started looking at, what else they say. So then their next thing is we have 85 to 94% success rates. And I was like,
Hmm.
that's a pretty big jump. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's 84 to 95, I think is what their actual success rates were. But I was like, that's a really big jump. Like that's 11%. So if I'm talking about 100 people, 11 of those may or may not have quit.
Yeah.
And for me, I need facts. I
You
need
need
information.
numbers. Yeah. Like
Yeah, and
good
I'm
data.
a bookkeeper, so I
Yes.
need numbers.
I know. I hear you with the numbers.
Right? So I'm like, my success rates seem to drop to about 85% by month 3. And I was like, to me, that's not success.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people quit smoking for 3 months and then start again. So to me, when it comes to an addiction, the proof is in the pudding that they say that up to 90% of people cannot stop an addiction for a year and they will relapse multiple times before they can get to that place.
Interesting.
And so I thought, I don't like this. I want to do something better. I want to make this better. So I started experimenting on people with their permission.
Yes.
Different treatments, different sequencing, different timing, different lasers, like you name it, I started doing. I spent 5 years doing it, documenting it. And then in the last year or so, last year and a half, I really started to see that if I did it this way and use these trade secrets, at 1 year, I had 95% success rates. Still,
Wow. Yeah.
that's that 10% that we were just talking about that really matters. And for me,
Yeah.
in high school, I didn't need to try to get an 85%, but I did to get a 95. So I thought I'm going to make it so that I have a successful business with this and that I'm not like everybody else because we have to stand out in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up creating a package that literally has 95% success rates when the package is followed properly at 1 year. To me, that's success.
Yeah.
Because if I tell you I have 85 to 90% success rates, one of the first things people would say to me is, for how long though? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just the statistics of our industry. And
Mm-hmm.
so then I started to track it and it really started to change things for me because now I know what it's going to take. And then I started digging into addictions because one of my friends called me and said, my daughter and her boyfriend are heroin addicts. And I'm just wondering, like, I quit smoking successfully with you. It was magical. And I'm just wondering if there's anything you can do. And I was like, basically, all addictions work the same. So I bet you I can help them.
Yeah.
He's like, I will pay full price. I will pay for them both to come in. I said, they both have to want to. It's the same as smoking. It's any
Exactly.
addiction. They have
Yeah.
to want to stop.
Yeah.
And she was like, I will pay. And so the day that she brought these people in to be treated, their appointment was at 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
They could not wait until 10 a.m. to use. So they used at like 9 and showed up at my office at 10 and were so stoned that they were laying on the chairs, just like staring at the ceiling and just like
Wow.
waving around. And I was like, oh my God, I can't communicate with them. I can't treat them.
Yeah.
So I waited for another hour or so till they kind of sobered
For
up
it to
enough that
kind of
the cage.
yeah.
And then, they're starting to burn out. So they're like, well, I'm going to need to use again within the next hour. And I was like, good, let's go treat you then. So I got them treated and they did fantastic. And the
Both of them.
daughter, yes, a year later, sometime later, the boyfriend used, and because of the way addiction works,
Yeah.
a lot of times when you've recovered and you use a substance again, your body goes straight into shock and you will die.
Oh, wow.
Alcohol is the most proven for this, but other opiates, this is why the British Columbia government has made it so it's legal
Mm-hmm.
and why they put people onto like Suboxone and methadone is because this way,
Gotcha.
if they do relapse, they won't die because their body's used to it. Our
Oh,
government just blows my
that's
mind. So the
weird.
fact that
Yeah.
you're gonna keep something legal and keep them on a medication for the rest of their lives just in case they relapse, you're giving them permission to relapse. If they know they're gonna die
Yeah.
because their body's going into shock, they're probably less likely to use.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like deeper into the like how that works too.
Like so much.
Like when I
So I
know
mean,
that
also,
something's gonna happen in the future, I'm like, all right, I am expecting it to happen. It's like people expect it to happen.
and then I know not to use because it's probably gonna kill me the first time I do
Mm-hmm.
it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, but also our government doesn't want somebody like me around because $50 million a day in taxes for cigarettes in Canada alone per day. So they don't want me around because if I stop people from smoking, they're out $50 million a day. Never mind
Yeah.
alcohol, never mind anything else. Marijuana, we haven't even included the taxes on those. So I did treat these people. Sometime in the future, the son ended up, or not the son, sorry, the daughter's boyfriend did
Mm-hmm.
end up using, and
He did
he
pass.
passed away. From what I've gathered, her daughter is still clean. I actually have been doing podcast recordings, and she heard one and was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, so the date you said was wrong." And because I said something like 3 years after he used, and she was like, "Your date was wrong." And so, but I said, "Well, is your daughter still clean?" And she's like, "As far as I know, yeah." And I was like, "Okay." So, and
Good.
that was
Yeah.
5 years, 6 years into my journey. So we're looking at
Mm.
like 7 years of this woman not using drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And so it just has been such an incredible journey of being able to help
Yeah.
these people. And that started it. That created this incredible passion in me. If I can help a heroin addict, are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah. And it helped you too, so you experienced it firsthand.
Yes. And now I've had both experiences. So I've had the experience of the 85% of people who come in and forget. That was that magical experience that I
Yeah.
had driving home. Then there's 15% of people who struggle. So when I
Mhm.
came back from my second treatment, I struggled. And I only struggled because the communication between my stomach and my brain were still there. So
Mhm.
there's microbiome in your stomach. Your stomach is considered the second
The
brain,
second brain. Yep.
right? And so when you stop feeding it something, whether it is alcohol, whether it is smoking, whether it's sugar, if you stop feeding it something, the bugs start to die. And while they do that, they scream bloody murder. And they're
Mhm.
screaming to your brain, we're going to die without this. We're going to die without this. So sugar, 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 or cigarette, cigarette,
Yeah.
cigarette. And that's what makes addiction really hard to stop, is because the bugs in your stomach are so used to it. They're communicating with your brain.
Yeah.
You feel like a crazy person because you can't stop thinking about it. So there's that 15% that have that experience, but there is zero craving. And the difference between that is such a fine line.
Yeah.
But if I have a craving, there is no saying no to it.
Mhm.
I cannot say no.
Yeah.
But if there is no craving and I still think about it, then I don't have to use, I need to go distract myself.
Yeah.
So I've created programs that allow me to help people through either way. Even
Yeah.
if you walk away and forget, you still need to change routines. You still need to
Yes.
deal with habits. And if you don't deal with the underlying reason that you started the addiction in the first place, you're going
Yeah.
to end up back there.
Yeah, and I love that you say that because I do hypnosis work with clients. And, part of what you said earlier is like, do they want the change or not? Do you really want to stop smoking or not? Or is it something you're pushing them? And I think that's part of that mind body connection is when you know yourself that it's time to change, you're gonna change. But if it's like, I don't know, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. I mean, it could go either way, and if you go
Yep.
in there doubting it, you're probably right. It's not going to work for
Yep.
you, and then
Yep. I mean,
you're
for
just spending
me,
money.
I hate to say it, but for me, skeptics are probably my favorite, because
Yeah.
people who come in and are like, "Oh, I know this worked so good for, 8 of my friends." I'm like, "Okay, so you realize that that's 80%, which means you're so much more likely to be on the 15% end, meaning you're probably going to be the one person who struggles." I can have 10 people come in to quit smoking, and two of them are struggling, whereas
Yeah.
the rest of them are doing fantastic, and one of them won't quit smoking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's not even whether you believe in it or not.
Hmm.
Skeptics who come in and are like, "This isn't going to work. Do you want it?" Yeah, I do. Okay. So if you notice it working, then run with it. Okay.
Let it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Let it
So for
go.
me, it's more about that. It's more, you know what? Come in here, skeptic, and let me prove you wrong, because I'm
Hmm.
about to blow your socks off.
Yes. Yes. And I think, oh man, what you're doing is so amazing. I wish you were here in Texas.
Yeah, can you call me and maybe we should discuss a partnership, just saying. Or
Yeah.
anyone listening.
Yeah.
We are partnering now. The catch is in California, Washington, Arizona, and Texas. You guys have different radiation laws. So the lasers that we use, and I'm going to get into that now
Mm-hmm.
because of this,
Do
the
it. Do it. Do
lasers
it.
we
Yeah.
use do use radiation. And the problem with the radiation in your guys' area is that you have to be a medical esthetician in order to operate our laser, or
Mm-hmm.
you need to be working under a doctor.
Gotcha.
So we are looking for partners in the States. It looks like we may have a new one. Our first one in the United States is going to happen. But
Yeah.
um, one of the what happens with us and what we're doing is cold laser therapy itself and the cold laser is low level radiation combined with LED light. So
Hmm.
you hear everybody talking about the red light therapy that it's
Yes.
the big trend right now.
Yeah,
It's been around
I've
for
done the
like
red light, and I've done the, what is it, the red light sauna as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the red light therapy has actually been around for probably 50 years, maybe even longer, because
Hmm.
that's how they mixed it. So cold laser therapy, I'm going to say it has been around for 50 to 60 years now. And the idea of it is that we're using Western medicine, which is acupuncture, or Eastern medicine, which is acupuncture, and we're using without piercing, we're
Hmm.
using Western modern medicine and combining the two to create this outcome. So we use
Interesting.
acupuncture based points and the body's energies with a cold laser that uses radiation and LED light to stimulate the energy meridians.
Oh,
Okay.
so cool. I was trying to
So
figure out how that worked.
yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, what we're doing is we are the people who give you the treatment, they are instructing your body to fix itself
Yeah.
because your body knows better than any doctor, than any nurse, than anybody. It knows it better than you know it, and it can fix itself. And so we just give it instruction and tell it, this is what we want you to work on.
Hmm.
And so the cold laser therapy, because we use low level radiation, certain states have certain rules about it.
Hmm.
And that's the only issue, I guess you could say, that we have even seen. And even that, like I said, a
Call it a
medical
challenge.
esthetician. Yeah, a
Yeah.
medical esthetician can use our lasers, but somebody
Hmm.
who is just a normal person can't.
I'm a normal person, but I do know
I
that
always
there's
say if you
several.
get caught. So
Yes, no, this is good. And I do know several girls and several women here in Austin who are estheticians, and just they're doing different things. But yeah, like I think that'd be really cool if you bring that
it's a
this way.
really great service to add to
Yes.
an already existing business. So
Yeah.
that's like what we're looking for in our
Mm-hmm.
partnerships is essentially you sell our product, our
Mm-hmm.
service, and then you pay us a commission from what you make off of that service. And
Okay.
there's a very, very low startup cost because I would like to get enough locations up and running.
Yeah.
Once we have, say, 100 locations, then the startup cost will increase. So you guys might want to run.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the startup cost is super low. The training is not that long. It's a really great thing to add to any business that we already
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life because
Yeah.
people are so grateful that I was able to help them get themselves clean and sober
Yeah.
and stay clean and sober.
Hmm. And I mean, maybe things are going to change because right now here in the US, there's a lot of big changes happening, especially in the health space with Make America Healthy Again, right? Which I'm really excited about because,
Yeah.
especially here in Austin, there's a lot of holistic approaches, a lot of
Mhm.
people doing those plant medicine journeys, right? Those spiritual journeys, and just different things. And like that would be, what you have would be something amazing to have here in,
I agree.
at least here in Texas, but definitely in Austin. And like I said, there's a lot of holistic approaches, and health is getting better, I think. I think people are being more aware.
We're
Like
becoming more conscious.
yes, exactly. And I don't think I was aware about laser therapy until I met you, actually. Or maybe I had heard of it, but I wasn't like awake to it. And
Mhm.
I'm like, now I'm like super curious about it, especially because I've tried acupuncture. I find it super amazing. I've done hypnosis. I know how amazing that is, and how
Yep.
when we really want to change, so many things just happen, right? And I've helped through hypnosis. I've helped people quit smoking and quit vaping. Imagine
Yep.
what can happen with this laser therapy that you have, and it's amazing that you've started this. And I just love how excited you are about this. Like it just brings this energy to me that I'm like, okay, we gotta somehow figure this out in Texas.
Right?
Yeah.
It's definitely become my passion. It is just such a I'm just so I'm grateful that we actually have some real solutions
Hmm.
to addictions.
Yeah.
And I know that like a business's general idea here is make
Hmm.
money. That's why
Hmm.
we have businesses.
Yeah.
That being said, my business is essentially designed to close once we've helped everyone get over their addiction. It's going to take me a really long time to help that many people because
Hmm.
my goal is to get you to stop and stay stopped.
Yes.
Whereas my competitors, the more you come back, the more money I'm going to make off you.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
you come back once a year, I'm going to make a lot of money off you that you keep coming back because it works for you when you come back. Well,
Hmm.
I don't want you to come back.
Yeah.
I want you to stop and I want you to go tell everyone you
Yeah.
know. And
Tell
anytime you see
somebody.
someone struggling, get them to come and I will help them too.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's so, I feel like addiction, because especially the more of the world we're living in, the more challenges we're seeing,
Yeah.
which means there's more reality that there's going to be addictions
Yeah.
until we get to a place where where we are consciously dealing with our life, and
Yeah.
we have new coping
Yeah.
mechanisms.
And because of the work that you do, let me ask you this, that correlation between that mental, that physical health, that spiritual, emotional health, how does all of that, how has that, obviously, I know from what you're doing, how that has correlated into your life, into your journey. But like, what do you think is key here? And I think something you said earlier was that the second brain too, right? I don't really get anybody talking about the second brain. So what's that connection to you and how important is that to you?
So for me, what I have definitely found is like the more people that I can help, like it's not just about treatments. We also
Mm-hmm.
offer coaching,
Yeah.
so that we can, because all of the things got to tie together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That being said, you can buy one of our cheaper packages and then see a counselor where you pay them hourly instead of giving us a package rate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, for me, it's not about that. What I care about is getting you clean and sober. And one of the things that the the crazy part that most people don't understand, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people don't understand addiction in general, like the chemical side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the science behind addiction is really that you're releasing endorphins,
Mm-hmm.
and different substances release different endorphins at different levels. So
Mm.
alcohol will release dopamine, but only for about 20 minutes. And then that's why people will drink again, because then the dopamine crashes and you start to feel sad. So you'll drink another drink.
Yeah.
um Heroin releases super high levels of dopamine for say an hour, and then they crash really really hard. So and it's not just dopamine, it's serotonin, it's the bliss molecule, it's all these things. Marijuana actually attaches to our own bliss molecule in our brain, which is why people like it so much. Now, what happens with someone who has used substances for a long period of time, whether it's alcohol, drugs, sex, porn, phone, like you,
Yeah.
whatever it is, over a long period of time, you actually change the chemical and physiological makeup of your brain. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the matter in your brain is changing. Now, have you ever been depressed?
Yeah.
When we're depressed, it's the simplest thing coming out of someone's mouth that would mean nothing to you when you're not depressed is the most hurtful thing in the world when you are.
Yeah.
Everything is so much heavier and worse when you're depressed. And depression is, your serotonin levels are super low. I felt when I was depressed that I was looking through a fence that I couldn't see through, and I was always trying to peek through these little spots. But when you
Yeah.
can't see clearly, you can't deal with the situation clearly. So it was like having my goggles taken off when I started antidepressants.
Yeah.
So in addiction, when you change the chemical and physiological makeup of the brain, and then you get these people, like let's go to the beginning. Before these people started
Mm-hmm.
using drugs, and the reason they started using drugs is because they had childhood trauma
Yeah. Some
that
trigger.
they did not learn how to deal with.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel whatever it is that they're feeling that's trying to force to become up, so they cover it up with some kind of drug, alcohol, whatever it
Yeah.
is, and then it becomes a habit because that feels so much better
Yes.
than it feels to be hurting.
Yeah. For sure.
So we start there. That's where we start. Is it hurts to be sober, so I started drinking, and it hurt to be sober when your chemicals were normal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we started drinking and we changed those chemicals and we messed up our brain, and then we want them to get sober. So they get sober, they take that week of detox where they throw up and shake and convulse, which, by the way, typically doesn't happen with our clients, because we make your brain think that it's got it, so it doesn't need to go through that process. But we give them that week of detox, and we give them that time. And now, as they get sober, say 1 to 2 weeks later, AA, rehab centers, they're like, okay, so we need to do some counseling and we need to
Mm-hmm.
start dealing with why you were drinking in the first place. Now, when they were sober and had normal chemicals, they didn't want to deal with it. And now they're way down here, and you're asking them to deal with their traumas and
Yeah.
stay sober, because if they don't deal with the trauma, they're not staying sober.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
it
so easy to
takes
fall back.
well, because you feel like crap.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
feel sad, and we haven't even gone in and touched the trauma. My
Yeah.
brain chemicals have crashed and I feel sad. Now, we want you to start dealing with your traumas. well, I'm already sad, which makes those traumas 15,000 times harder than they
Yeah.
already were when I was sober before I even started using. It takes your brain 14 to 18 months to recover to what it would be considered as a new normal. Not a nice feeling.
Yeah.
Which is how come you find that most people cannot stay sober to a year. You'll find that people make it 3 weeks, 3 months, and that's where they stop. They can't make it to a year. And it's because
Mm.
you want me to suffer for 14 to 18 months for my brain to make me feel like a normal human being.
I don't even want to think about that.
Right? Can you
Yeah.
imagine? And even thinking about the fact that now I'm going to suffer like this for longer and longer and longer until my brain recovers.
Mm-hmm.
LaserQuit tricks your brain into thinking it's gotten the fix. So you leave and you feel normal as you're going to be.
Yeah.
You feel normal. I'm going to keep teaching your brain to keep that endorphin release up at a high level. So you're not down here trying to deal with crap. You're actually up at an almost normal level. So say
Mm-hmm.
Meridee would be up here because Meridee doesn't drink coffee really. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. So my endorphins would be here and yours would be here instead of down here.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
by getting these people to this place, now using multiple treatments, we're able to teach your brain to keep that level of endorphin instead of it crashing back down so that I
Yeah.
have to deal with my trauma from that sad place. And now I
Yeah.
can deal with it from an almost normal place. And eventually I'll actually be happy.
Yeah. And I don't have to go deeper into that because I'm already deep in there. So,
Yes. And now I
yeah.
don't have to go deep into this sadness. I'm
Yeah.
going to get sad,
Yeah.
but I'm going to get sad about the moments from a place of normality instead of a place of deep sadness as it is.
Yeah.
And now you want me to get deeper sadness and
Yeah.
feel my, no, thank
Yeah.
you. Even me. When I get sad, I don't want to sit in those sad feelings.
I
That's
know,
the most
right?
uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah.
So when I sit, now that being said, this is all the things that have inspired it for me is I don't drink or do drugs or smoke or do any of these things. So when something happens, guess who has to sit in her shit?
Yeah.
That would be this girl. And so if I have to sit in that and I'm already uncomfortable because this is not how I normally feel and I don't have a substance to go to,
Yeah.
imagine how someone who has substances they can run to feel. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, screw the mess that I'm in right now. That makes me feel better. And I don't
Yeah.
care if it costs me my life because this right here is too uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're taught coping mechanisms and you're taught how to feel through these things, an emotion lasts 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
At most, it lasts 90 seconds. It's the story you attach to the feeling that messes you up. So for me, like, for example, if I get anxiety, the story that I've attached to that is now. And this is me changing. This is some of the work that I've had to do. The story I attached to it is, oh shit, I'm focused on the future.
Interesting.
Because for me, and Eckhart Tolle said this, he says, if you have anxiety, it's because you're focused on the future. If you have guilt, it's because you're focused on the past. And the only way to avoid those feelings is to be right here, right
Here in
now
the
in the
present.
present.
Exactly.
So if I'm feeling anxious, I'm like, oh shit, I'm focused on the wrong thing right now. I'm too focused on what's going to happen in the future. And I don't know what's going to happen. And I have no
Mm-hmm.
control over it. No kidding, I have anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's just such a really
It's so
great place
powerful.
to like, right? And it's just
Yeah.
such a good place to sit and go, okay, this is where I'm at. But 5 years ago, when I got anxiety, I was like, oh my God, something bad's going to happen. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh my
Oh
God.
my
And then I get so
God.
focused. Yes, you get so focused on it. You're like, oh my God, my life is over.
Yeah, and what's crazy is our
Anxiety is
body feels it
debilitating.
too. Like
It's
physically.
debilitating. It's
Yeah.
uncomfortable. It's horrifying. And we then attach a story which
Mm-hmm.
allows that to continue because that anxiety would have passed through your body in 90 seconds if you had not attached a story to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to learn these things, but these are not things that everybody in the world knows. Like my best friend is forever. She's like, I got anxiety today. I'm like, where are you then?
Yeah.
Oh shit, thanks, Meredith. You're right. That I'm not here right now, am I? I'm in my future. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not, tell me someone you know that has been taught this if they haven't read the books, if they haven't
Mhm.
done the personal work.
Yeah.
I can tell you most addicts haven't done the personal work, otherwise they wouldn't be addicts.
Yeah, and I mean they're everything's happening to them, you know? Everything is like either somebody's fault or whatever happened to them and
They're the victim in
um
the
it's
story.
the story like you said, right? And we're such great storytellers if you really think about it.
We are.
And what's
And that's another thing.
interesting, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
So that's it's weird that like you really made me think about back in college, I used to always say, "Oh, I'm never gonna drink." My dad was an alcoholic. He kind of is still, but working on that. And I started drinking during college, and it wasn't because of, I mean, I think it was this whole story, but it was like, oh, I'm confident during this time. People like me during this time. I'm like a cool girl during this time, right? And so I would drink, and then the next day I felt fine because I was still like in my 20s. But like then I
Yeah.
eventually, after I do it to work, I eventually stopped drinking only because physically I did not feel good the next day. Like my stomach would get just really swollen. Like it was, I wouldn't throw up. I wouldn't have a hangover or anything like that. But like my stomach would feel sick, and like it's like that second that gut was telling me stop it, Carla, right? And now when I've done the work, I'm like that's what was. I used to think I wasn't fun as a regular down to earth Carla. I used to think that people had nothing to listen to or that I was just some boring girl or weird girl, you know? And so those were the stories that if I really think about
Yeah.
it now, that was kind of the I wouldn't drink every day, but it was during parties so I can hang out with people, you know? Like that was
Yep.
the addiction there was like I want people to like me.
I only drink on special occasions.
Mhm. Yeah.
No. What
I've
makes it
seen that
special that you're drinking? And the thing for
at the
me is
doctor's office. They asked that too.
it's a class one carcinogen. Back in the day, even 5 years ago, they used to say a red glass of red wine a day is really good for you. Then
Mhm.
it changed to like a glass of, or 2 glasses of red wine in a week is good for you. And now it's zero alcohol is good for you.
Mhm.
And I just actually did like some I have some great content on my social medias if you guys are ever interested. Sober Coach Mayor is where you'll find me on Instagram. And I actually just posted one and it said, "Have you ever wondered why you stumble, why you make bad decisions, and why you do the things you do when you're drinking?" So for me, I was a puker.
Mhm.
I could drink maybe 3 drinks and then I was at the toilet for the rest of the
Yeah.
night. And one of the things that I never understood is how did I eat at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock?
Mhm.
It's now 11 o'clock, 6 hours later, and I'm puking and the food has not digested at all. It looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why until I really started digging into the addiction side of things. And this is, I love science because of
Yeah.
this. But the reason for it is because have you ever noticed when you start drinking, your face goes numb
Yeah.
and then your arms and hands go tingly?
Or you get really red and hot right here too.
Did you know that the reason that your hands and arms go tingly is because your body, the first drink, your body's like, okay, I can get rid of this.
Yeah.
The next drink, it's accumulative. So the next drink, your
Mhm.
body's like, oh shit, what do I do with this? And then the
Mhm.
third drink, your body's like, nope, shutting down. So what it does, it shuts, your brain starts to send signals. So you get the tingly hands and stuff like that because it's shutting off and minimizing the blood to your
Wow.
extremities because it needs to focus on the detox process of your torso. Then the reason you're puking, and it's exactly the same, is because your digestive system has completely shut off.
Yeah.
It doesn't need nutrition right now, and it can't use it anyway, so it's gonna focus on fixing what we just
Yeah,
broke.
it's gonna reject it.
So it literally starts slowly shutting down little systems here and there, and the only systems that stay running are your liver, your kidney. They stay running,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but they stop functioning in the way that they're supposed to because you have now turned alcohol into ethanol inside your body and your body needs to get rid of it now, ASAP. So you stumble because your legs aren't working properly because the
Hmm.
blood flow has been minimized. You can't really feel your hands or they're tingly or you have numb lips, things like that, because they're not important enough to keep. It's important enough to keep it alive, but it's not important enough for it to have sensation, for you to
Hmm.
touch. And I
Yeah.
that was one of my number one symptoms is my face would go numb. I'd poke myself and I'd be like, I
Yeah.
can't feel anything.
Yeah.
Right. So your
Yeah.
systems are actually
That's so
shutting
crazy.
down and you're putting a class one carcinogen in your body. So, would you eat asbestos?
No.
And yet you'll put alcohol in your system. I would never eat asbestos. I'm not going to put myself in these situations. And it's so interesting because you'll see all these influencers and they're like, look how fit I am. And I only eat organic and I drink on the weekend.
They're drink out there partying and stuff. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
how can you sit here and tell people you're healthy when you're putting a class one carcinogen in your system? And let's be real, if alcohol was invented today, it would not be legal. There's no way it would be legal because they
Yeah.
would look at what it does to your body. They'd see it's a class one carcinogen, all the things, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, this is not good.
Yeah. This is banned right now, like yesterday. Yeah.
And
So, oh
yet
my
here we sit.
gosh, you have like literally just taught me so much in this short amount of time. Like, I am excited for all this. I just love all the science that you're bringing here, the logic, the power as a woman too of all the things that you are doing. And so, let me ask you this is What's next for Meridee? What's next for LaserQuit? Like, what are you you kind of mentioned it earlier, but what are you excited about that's coming?
So the things that I'm the most excited about is these partnerships with these different businesses, expanding and getting this across Canada into the
Mhm.
United States and
Yes.
really starting to help more and more people, give them
Mm-hmm.
more options, if nothing else,
Yeah.
and get people clean and sober and get this world to be a more powerful place.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I truly believe is we're all very controlled by our governments, but if we had our brain functioning at the levels that they are capable of functioning, we would not be in the positions that we're in. We mask those things as well with alcohol. We mask
Yeah.
those things with drugs. And I do believe that if we could get there, we would be a stronger, more powerful, united front against the things that are taking us down.
Yeah.
And there's one more piece that I want to give you guys because to me this kind of actually blew my mind. It's another scientific piece.
Yes.
Um,
Bring all the science today.
so did you know that if you drink on a Friday,
Hmm.
even if you only drink one day on the weekend or only on the weekend, and even if it's only a couple glasses, your brain takes 8 days to recover.
Yeah, I think I heard that. What's his? Can't think of his name right now. But yeah, I feel like I heard a podcast that said it takes 8 days.
8 days for your brain to recover.
It's
And
crazy.
so if we start drinking on a Friday, your brain, you go through the entire next week and you're not your best self.
Yeah. You're
You
still
feel better
processing
after
that,
about
huh?
2 or 3 days, but your brain is not normalized.
Yeah.
And then you drink on the next Friday, your brain never got back to normal. If you
Yeah.
drink on the Saturday, your brain was barely recovered back to normal and you
So
twisted it
those
back up
hormones
again.
that you talked about, they're already like lower and lower and lower, huh?
And then they're going to stay lower because it's now a pattern that you've developed.
Mm-hmm.
So you're never going to get those brain chemicals back to where they could be.
Yeah.
And like I said, when your brain chemicals are not at a normal level, now what's normal? I get it. But if they're not at a normal level, you're not operating at your capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And my big thing is this, my children learned what they lived. My
Yeah.
kids didn't, my kids my kids don't drink very much. My daughter drinks more than my son, but they don't drink very much, like once every few months for her and once every 6 to 9 months for him kind of thing. I haven't drank in 15 years. In August, it will be 16 years since I've had a single drink of
Congrats.
alcohol. That being said, my family calls me the alcohol detector. So if if they get a drink and they're like, this doesn't quite taste right, is there alcohol in it? And they'll give it to me and I'll sip it and I'll be like, yes or no. Like I can taste it immediately.
Yeah.
But it's just such an interesting thing because your children do what your kids will mimic what
Yeah.
you're doing. You can't sit there and tell them, don't do what I do what I say, because they're going to do exactly the opposite. They're
Yeah.
going to do exactly what you did, and then they're going to repeat that pattern.
Yeah.
And if you don't heal it, you'll pass it on.
Yeah. And everybody's, or at least whoever listens to this podcast has probably heard the body keeps the score and how
Yes.
what we experience, or maybe our parents or grandparents or whoever experienced, if they didn't work on it, like we're probably experiencing it, right? And then
Yep.
if we don't heal it, if we don't work on it, even now after our kids have been born, like they're going to see it, they're going to feel it, they're going to hear it, they're going to, see everything. And then they're going to create their beliefs and everything from that
Yep.
model. And
Yep.
then it just goes on and on and on. So yes, like it's about healing and like for us really because eventually our kids, like you said, they're gonna make the mistakes that they're gonna make. They're gonna live the life that they gotta live. But really, like it's gotta stop
Yep.
individually
And
and
if
just
we
have the
start the
awareness.
process, and not just that, but let's start the process. And when your kids
Hmm.
see you start the process, yeah, they're
Yeah.
going to go out and make mistakes when they're in their 20s. It's normal to feel invincible and do all
Hmm.
the things. Let them.
It's part of their
When
hormones,
they
right?
start to come back and they start to get into their 30s and they start to really get their shit together, they're going to start their healing. They may even start before. My kids have started their healing process. And like I said, my daughter's 21 and my son's
Yeah,
turning 23,
that's
and
amazing.
they are in this healing. So they'll come to me and be like, I'm feeling triggered by my friend. I know it's not them because when I point one finger at you, there's three
Hmm.
pointing back at me, which means
Yes.
it's me. So, mom, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Can we talk about this? And then we walk them through the process.
Yeah.
My kids are in their 20s and started this process of healing themselves, which means if they have kids, they won't be passing that same shit on. And if they
Hmm.
do, they're going to be passing on things that matter.
Yeah.
Here's how you heal yourself. That matters.
Yeah. So I
So,
love that. I love that so much. And what is something you've said so many good, amazing things in here, but if you were to like, I guess, pick one thing that you would want to teach someone that wants to learn from you, what would you share with them?
So if I was to say the one inspiration,
Sure.
there's always hope. That's the part I think for me that has been the scariest is when someone comes to me and says, I just don't think there's hope left. I'm like, there's always hope. Even if it's just the tiniest sliver, that tiny sliver, like that's how the light gets in. In the darkest places, that tiny little crack is how the light gets in. And once the light is in, it lights the place up. So let's use that slice of heaven to put some light in it and let's brighten up the room. There's always hope.
I love that. I love that so, so, so much. And if somebody wanted to work with you, or if they're in Canada and they want to go to LaserQuit, where can they find you on social? How can they connect with you?
How can they find me? So,
Yes.
social, you'll find laserquit.therapy. Sober Coach Mare are my two Instagrams. Facebook, LaserQuit Therapies. If you are looking for our website, it is laserquittherapy.ca or laserquit.net will redirect you to that as well. You want a phone, if you're in the States, use WhatsApp. 250-571-9879 is the business number. And reach out, you guys, because I'm looking for
Love
the
it.
right partners. Now we do vet you to make sure that you're a good fit for our partnership, but we're looking for more partners to expand this. And since it's early, now's the time to get in where there's very little to no startup cost. And then suddenly we're going to blow up and there's going to be a lot of changed lives in this world. And it's so fun
Yes.
to be part of.
Yeah. Yeah, and you be part of the originals for sure. So thank you so much, Meridee, for coming on here, for bringing me so much knowledge, so much statistics as well, like awareness for people to like know that there is hope, that there is options there to quit whatever, addictions or anything that you want to quit, and just, knowing that if you do the work, things change. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for being on here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. Honestly, having Meridee on this episode was such a grounding and eye-opening experience. So much wisdom that I gained here. She's so smart, yo. I said it in the beginning, and I'm going to say it again. She taught me so much. There's so much we can all learn, whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader in a corporation, a parent, or just someone who's trying to figure out how to let go and move forward in your life. So, if I had to sum up two big takeaways from this conversation, the first would be that growth, a real meaningful kind of growth, is usually or can usually be about letting go. So, whether it's trusting as a business owner, old patterns as a parent, or even deeper things like addiction, and you're all free from this, right? None of us gets there by clinging to control. It comes down to loosening your grip, right? Little by little, piece by piece, and by making space for change, even when it is uncomfortable. The saying is, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I've been really learning that. And so this one was like huge for me of like letting go of that control. The second thing that really stuck with me is how connected our emotional lives are to our physical health, especially when it comes to habits or addictions, right? Of course, this is why I have this podcast. This is why I do the work that I do as a life coach, NLP trainer, hypnosis trainer. I know that mind-body connection, it's so much, yo. And if you didn't know, we talked about it. There are two brains, right? Our gut and our brain. So Meridee shared those insights, right? About how our brain chemistry, our gut, and our stories all play those huge roles in why we hold on to things. And eventually, like we said, right, letting them go. It's a reminder that if you're struggling to change something, it's not just like willpower or like the discipline. There are real reasons behind it, and there is definitely hope if you want to do the work. So, whether you're listening and thinking about your own journey, supporting someone else, or you're just curious about how science and healing can work together, I hope you got something useful from this episode, from this conversation we had. It's just so enlightening for me. And like I've said before, I get to listen to these things firsthand. Okay. So just a quick reminder, there are several events that are happening this year with Metafit Metamind, with the Academy. The hypnosis certification training is happening in November. On the podcast, I share it, okay? You'll see more things in my social, on LinkedIn, because I'm using that more. So make sure you keep up, okay? So thank you so much for always taking your time to listen to this, or if you're watching this, I appreciate you every single time that I see that someone's been listening or downloading the episode. And so if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to rate and subscribe to the episode. It helps me so much. If you're on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel. You'll see when a new episode comes out. And so with that being said, my name is Carla Rodriguez. This is Metafit Metamind Podcast, for weird conversations that we would have never had before. Until next time.